What's going on, guys? It's Greg here, aka NYPrepper. This video I'm going to be changing the oil on my Supercharged Silverado Trail Boss 2021. I've been using 0W-20 since I got the supercharger installed in early of 2025, and I want to upgrade the oil to something a little bit thicker. So I'm going to go to a 0W-40 and see what happens. Hopefully my engine doesn't blow up. I don't think it will. But 0W-20 is, I guess, marginally okay for these trucks. Just with the stock 5.3, that's what this is, a 5.3 L82. Does not have the AFM in it. It came without AFM from the factory. And doesn't have auto start stop, so it's a really reliable truck. It's got the 6-speed transmission, the 6L80. It's a real solid transmission, aside from some torque converter issues, but if you don't beat on them, they're okay. So we're gonna go up to 0W-40, and I'm gonna take it for a test drive and see what happens, if I get any codes or anything. But we're going to use Mobil 1 Supercar, which I think is appropriate because this is a 5.3 liter V8, plus it's supercharged now, so there's a lot more stress on the bearings. And in my last oil analysis, there was a little bit of bearing wear in the wear metals. There was a little bit elevation of copper in my oil analysis from Speed Diagnostics. So we're going to do an oil analysis. We're going to pull a little bit of oil out of this. I think we're at like 3,000 miles. I did the analysis like 1,000 miles ago. I just want to get this 0W-20 water oil out of this engine before I have some issues with massive wear. Also, I got this PPE high efficiency filter. I highly recommend these. I just installed one on my Duramax earlier this year, and I'm already at like 2,000 miles, and the oil is like super clean. I mean, it looks like almost new still. So we're gonna go with this one right here for our filter, and that's pretty much it. So let's get started. Drain the oil out, put the new one in, and that's pretty much it. All right, guys, so I drained the old oil, 0W-20 Mobil 1 Extended. Now we're going with the 040 Supercar. So GM, if you're watching this, please don't report me to the EPA for using thicker oil. It's not fuel efficient, I know, but I don't want my engine to blow up. I always like to use a filter funnel. So this funnel has a little filter in it, just in case some insects or debris get in here while you're filling the oil. It's always good to have one with a filter. So that's what we're gonna do now. We're gonna pour in 8 quarts. We'll probably start with 6 quarts and then start it up a little bit, let it run for a couple minutes, and then shut it off and add 1 or 2 more. So here we go. 0W-40. I'm breaking all the rules. Oh no. Oh no. You know, it's crazy. It's pretty watery at it feels just like 020. At room temperature, it's pretty watery at room temperature. But the key is that when the engine gets hot, which is when this supercharger puts a lot of stress on the bearings, is when the engine is hot, because now you're introducing compression, you know, plus it's direct injection. So you got direct injection, which is already high compression for a gas engine. Then you're adding a supercharger. So, you know, I want a little bit more protection, and I don't see anything wrong with going with Corvette oil, because Corvette engines are very similar to these. They're very, very similar. So 1 quart down. Here's quart number 2. One simple thing to remember when you're working with oil, when you're doing an oil change, it may sound funny, but if you haven't changed your oil in a little while, you may actually get confused about which direction to unscrew the drain plug and to unscrew your oil filter, and you could actually accidentally strip the threads or over tighten your filter if you're not paying attention. So just remember, you want to do it counterclockwise. So just think of like if you were to take a soda bottle, or any kind of drink bottle, you want to turn it counterclockwise. It's just like unscrewing a drink bottle or this bottle of oil, counterclockwise. And then you want to also clean, like when you take the oil filter off, there's the area where the gasket on the oil filter seals against the housing of the oil cooler area, right where the oil filter threads in. First of all, make sure that your gasket from your old oil filter didn't get stuck, because that can happen. People just take the oil filter off and the gasket gets stuck and stays, and then you try to thread the new one on and now you're threading over an existing gasket, and then you have a massive leak. You could lose oil on the road and you could have a catastrophic failure. So make sure the gasket comes off with your old filter, and then when you're spinning on your new filter, just go hand tight, don't go crazy, okay? Because a simple oil change can turn into a nightmare, okay? Because your oil filter can get stuck. It happens a lot. Just look up on YouTube, stuck oil filters, okay? You don't have to go that tight when you're screwing on an oil filter, okay? It has a gasket. The gasket is what does all the work, okay? The gasket is like a 1/4 inch thick. It doesn't have to be compressed that much for it to seal, okay? It's a really thick gasket. You just go, you spin it until you feel the filter stop, and it hits like a wall. You're threading it on real light, and then it stops. You don't want to go more than 3/4 or 1 turn past that, and just go hand tight. Don't go crazy. Just use one hand. The general rule of thumb is if you tighten it with your hand, you're not going to have a problem getting it off, okay? And don't go crazy like you're trying to win some kind of grip strength competition. Same thing with the drain plug. It doesn't have to be that tight. It has a little gasket on it as well. There's a little rubber gasket on the drain plug. You don't have to go crazy with it. You just take a short ratchet, tighten it up until you feel it pretty tight till it hits a wall, and then maybe just go like another 1/4 or 1/8 of a turn after that, and that's it, okay? You don't need to go crazy. This oil's pretty expensive. I think I paid like $9 a quart, so $90 of oil right here. But that's the price you pay if you want a performance vehicle. You're going to pay somewhere with higher octane fuel, or with diesel. If you have a diesel, you get that better towing capacity, low end torque. With supercharged, you got to use better oil. Can't use the same oil as naturally aspirated, because you're introducing extra pressure in the cylinder. The cylinder is getting pressurized, okay? When it's naturally aspirated, everything is under a vacuum. When you add a supercharger or turbocharger, now you're adding pressure. You're adding actual pressure that's pushing into everything, okay? And it puts more force on the bearings and everything else. So you need a little thicker oil to protect the bearings. It's going to be interesting to see what my oil analysis shows. Not just this one, but I'm going to do an oil analysis after like 2,000 miles with this oil. And if it's still good, maybe I'll stay till 4,000. I actually want to do like 4,000 mile oil changes on this truck, just to be on the safe side. So I'll do a analysis at 2,000 miles probably, just to see. We're just going to finish pouring the oil here, and then we're going to start it up. But it pours just like 0W20. I mean, it's pretty watery at room temperature because it's a 0W. So you're still going to have good winter performance. You know, it's a 0 grade in the winter. It's just thicker when the engine's at operating temperature, and that's what you want. Another thing I did was I actually flushed like 3/4 of a quart through the engine. So after I drained all the old oil out, I poured like 3/4 of a quart just to flush that old 020 out, get everything out of there. So you know, a truck that's, you know, 6,000 pounds and makes, you know, 550 horsepower at the crank. This truck made 420 horsepower on the dyno, 420 horsepower and 470 torque. You can't be using, you know, 0W20 oil. I mean, 020 is barely good enough for these trucks when they're naturally aspirated, but let alone supercharged. You know, another thing I did with this truck is I installed a dual battery system. Some of you guys may remember that if you've been following me for a while. I highly recommend you install a dual battery system. I have my second battery under the back seat, and the reason why is like one battery for a V8 engine, especially these new gas V8s, they have pretty high compression. They're like 10-to-1 compression. You know, my LBZ Duramax is like 16, I think, 16 or 17-to-1. So it's up there in compression, and in the winter, you know, it's just gonna drain your battery more having to crank all those cylinders with such high compression. What I do is, in the summertime I don't do this, but in the winter time, if it's cold outside, I'll connect my second battery. I have a switch in the cab, and I can manually disconnect or connect the battery whenever I need the second power of the battery. And I'll connect that second battery, and it turns over so much easier that the battery doesn't strain. My primary starting battery doesn't strain, you know, like when it's cold, you can hear the battery straining. You know, I don't know why they don't put a second battery from the factory on these gassers. I know they're gassers, but still, they're high compression gassers. It's a good idea to have a second battery. And here's our old oil. It actually wasn't too dark. It looks kind of black, but actually if I dip my finger in, it's actually not too dark. Kind of looks like transmission fluid. So I would say I probably would have been fine another 1,000 miles or so. But I wanted to get this thin crap oil out, especially now that it's summer and I'm going to be doing truck shows. I don't want to do any wear to my bearings. So yeah, I'll just see if maybe I'll cut the filter open and see what's inside. But I'll show you guys my last oil filter or my last oil analysis. I'll show you the numbers that I had. I had a slight amount of fuel dilution. I had like 2.1% fuel dilution, and I had like, I think it was 10 or 13 on the copper wear for 2,500 miles, which is high. Copper shouldn't be that high, and copper is your bearings. And if you remember with the 6.2 liters, they had bearing failure, and GM told them to switch to 040. So if it can work in a 6.2, it can work in this truck. All right, guys, it seems to be running normally. So we're gonna take it for a test drive now. and get it up to operating temperature. That's going to really determine if everything's okay. All right, guys, got the oil sample. I'll show you what the results are. I'm going to mail that out tomorrow. I wanted to just show you guys these PPE filters. I have one on my Duramax. These are awesome. These make a huge difference because all those little particulates in your oil, especially when you have direct injection, you have a lot of like soot particles in the oil, and that can be very abrasive. So PPE makes these high efficiency filters. You can see here down to 10 micron, and the diesel one goes down to like 5 micron, I believe. Specially engineered 10 micron filtration media. You know, it's worth it in my opinion. It's only like $10 or $20 more. Okay, so that's the part number there. That's what you're going to want to get if you have one of these 5.3s or 6.2s. Highly recommend it. It's keeping my oil very clean on my Duramax. All right, guys, we're up to operating temperature. No check engine lights. Everything's running smooth. No issues to report. My engine's not blowing up. It's not smoking. The sky is not falling. I'm not spewing pollutants all over the place. So there you have it, guys. You can put 040 in your 5.3 or 6.2 without a problem. And I guarantee you when my next oil analysis results come in, they're gonna be better. So stay tuned for the results from this oil. I'll show you guys the results from this oil analysis and then from my prior oil analysis, which